The turkey was dry, but the laughter was worse. "Still playing with your little investments?" my wife's father asked, carving through meat and dignity in the same lazy stroke. CEO hands, gold cufflinks, predator smile. Everyone smirked. My wife, her brothers, even her mother. I kept chewing. That was the moment I decided to end him. Not with anger, with math. I met him 10 years ago on a patio that smelled like bourbon and entitlement. He shook my hand like he was testing the tensile strength of my bones. Asked where I went to school. Asked who I knew. I could see the evaluation behind his eyes. He approved of me because I was quiet, because I listened, because I didn't look dangerous. My wife loved me before she learned to love the lifestyle. I loved her before I learned she came with ownership clauses. We built a life inside his shadow. I played polite son-in-law. I nodded through boardroom dinners. I swallowed jokes about ambition and real money. He liked reminding me I was temporary. The betrayal wasn't loud. It was soft, clean, administrative. A notification flashed across my wife's tablet while she was in the shower. I wasn't snooping. I never snoop. I was closing an app. Legal correspondence. My name. Prenup amendment. Postnup, actually. My share of joint assets reduced in the event of reputational risk. Signed digitally. Dated 3 weeks ago. Her father's law firm. I didn't confront. I didn't shout. I didn't even blink. I memorized. Then I started planning. I stopped investing through visible channels. I stopped discussing numbers. I let them think their laughter had worked. Privately, I opened 3 accounts. Different countries, different names. Perfectly legal. Perfectly invisible. I studied the company the way surgeons study tumors. Weak points, overextensions, liquidity illusions, how often they leveraged the stock as collateral, how nervous the board was about volatility. I started buying. Not enough to scare them, not enough to trigger disclosures. Piece by piece, through shell holding companies, through trusts that didn't wear my name but answered to me. They thought they owned me. I owned percentages of their future. The real play wasn't buying, it was timing the sell. I waited until the market was nervous. A pending investigation. A soft quarter covered up with aggressive accounting. Nothing illegal, just shaky enough to crack. Then I prepared the story. Leaks, quiet ones, placed in the right ears. Financial journalists don't need lies, they just need angles. By Thanksgiving, the stock was a champagne glass filled to the rim, and I was holding a brick. Back at that dining table, I watched his face as he laughed, watched my wife avoid my eyes, watched them enjoy what they thought was a harmless joke. It tasted like freedom. The assistant burst through the door, breathless and pale. "Sir, your major shareholder just sold $250 million in shares. The stock is plummeting." Silence fell like a guillotine. He looked confused, then alarmed, then afraid. He looked at me. I dabbed my mouth with a napkin. "I think your buyer lost confidence," I said calmly. The truth was better. I was the shareholder. They never saw my name. They saw my companies. They saw my proxies. They saw paperwork I compared and polished for months. The market didn't crash because of fear. It crashed because I let it fall. He tried to talk to me later, in his study, leather chairs, whiskey untouched, hands shaking. "You did this?" he asked. I didn't answer. I just slid the amendment back across his desk, the one reducing my rights, my share, my worth. He understood. His face didn't show rage, it showed terror. Because men like him don't fear losses. They fear being outplayed by someone they belittled. My wife cried. Her brothers whispered. The house felt smaller. I moved out a week later, by choice. Took what was already mine, plus what the market gave me, plus what pride couldn't buy. He stepped down 6 months after that, quietly. Publicly, it was health reasons. Privately, it was because nobody trusts a man who can't even recognize his own executioner sitting at his table. I don't feel guilty, not even a little. I feel light. Because the thing about being laughed at in silence is this: they think you're weak. They don't realize you're memorizing everything. And by the time the knife drops, you're already done eating.